There comes a moment in life when you realize that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not because you're better than them, but because you've worked too hard for your peace to give it away for free. You've survived storms no one saw. You've stitched wounds with your own hands. And now that you finally stand on your feet, calm and composed, some people still try to pull you back into the chaos. They refuse to leave behind. Toxic people don't always look dangerous. Sometimes they come with smiles. Sometimes they speak the right words. But you can always feel them draining your energy, unsettling your thoughts, leaving you questioning your worth. After every interaction, you begin to understand that protecting your peace doesn't require a speech, just a decision, a quiet one that says, "I'm not available for this anymore." The Stoics didn't seek revenge. They sought clarity. And in that clarity, they found freedom not from others, but from the need to be pulled into every storm that passes. If this kind of stillness resonates with where you are or where you're headed, feel free to subscribe. It helps this message reach others who are ready to choose depth over noise. And more than anything, it's a quiet way of saying, this is the kind of life I'm choosing now. Have you ever noticed how much of your life has been shaped by what you respond to? Every text you didn't want to answer, every argument you didn't want to have, every person you gave just one more chance. It adds up, not just in time, but in energy, in identity, in the quiet erosion of your emotional foundation. Toxic people don't always crash into your life with dramatic chaos. Often, they come quietly with something more dangerous bait. The kind that looks like concern, sounds like love, or feels like obligation. But it's bait all the same. The moment you react with anger, with defense, with that one last long message explaining yourself, you've already given them what they came for: your attention, your peace, your center. Because that's what they're really after, not resolution, but control. And here's the harsh truth: they'll keep playing the same game, using different words, as long as you keep stepping onto the field. The Stoics understood this long before we gave it names like emotional boundaries or detachment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, your response is your realm. That's where your power lives. It's not about being passive. It's about being precisive, understanding that every time you react to something unworthy of your energy, you're voting against your own peace. You're letting someone else decide how you feel, how you think, how much space they get inside your mind. And if they didn't earn that place with trust, respect, or kindness, why are they living there rent-free? Sometimes silence is stronger than any comeback not. The cold, dismissive kind, but the grounded kind. The kind that says, "This doesn't deserve my energy." And that decision to say nothing, to walk away, to not attend every argument you're invited to's not weakness, it's maturity. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And while that's true, it doesn't mean we have to sit in the irritation. We can learn and still leave. We can reflect and still walk away. But leaving doesn't always mean slamming the door. Sometimes it's quieter than that, a shift in presence, a subtle retreat. The moment you stop explaining your worth, you begin to live from it. That's where the transformation starts. You begin to respond less and reflect more. You begin to feel less responsible for fixing other people's discomfort, and more committed to preserving your own stillness. People who thrive on reaction can't stand stillness. It nerves them. They rely on emotional confusion to maintain control. But the moment you stop giving them your fire, they have nothing to burn. You stop feeding the dysfunction, they feel that absence. Like a door, gently but firmly closing. There's a freedom in no longer needing to be understood by the wrong people. A quiet strength in no longer performing emotional labor for those who never reciprocated it. Socrates believed, "The unexamined life is not worth living." But he also taught through silence, through listening, more than speaking, through knowing. When words build and when they destroy, when you begin to practice this restraint, something changes in you. Your energy becomes more centered, your relationships more intentional. You start to notice which conversations drain you, which people spark unease instead of peace. And most of all, you start to notice how much of your suffering was rooted in trying to be heard by people who weren't listening and never planned to. This is where philosophy meets practice, not in books or debates, but in daily choices. In that one moment when you decide, "I don't need to respond to this," and you don't. You go for a walk instead. You focus on your craft. You speak with someone who lifts you up rather than tears you down. You choose clarity over conflict. That one moment seems small, but it builds into something profound. Like Plato said, the first and best victory is to conquer self. And what better victory than the one where you win back your mind? The more you practice, the easier it becomes. You begin to master the pause, to delay the reaction, and eventually you no longer crave the last word, because you found something better, inner calm, and from that place, even when someone tries to shake you, you don't move, not because you're frozen, but because you've learned to stay rooted. Boundaries begin to set themselves not as walls of bitterness, but as lines of clarity. You don't have to explain them. You just live them. And the people who truly care about you, they'll feel the shift. Not as rejection, but as refinement. In the end, it's not about pushing people away. It's about choosing who gets to stay close. Who gets your softness, your time, your attention. That's your currency. And when you spend it wisely, your life begins to reflect the same discipline. You don't have to respond to every invitation into chaos. You don't have to correct every misjudgment, and you definitely don't have to light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Hold your silence, guard your peace, withdraw with grace. Let the storm pass while you remain still, because the real power, it was never in your reaction, it was in your ability to walk away and still remain whole.